No grasping even for the non-attachment itself. This will be the unwinding that discards itself simultaneously with everything. This needs not just being obsessed with something in something, that is just dwelling in realms of existence on and on. Open up widely as usual. Step back from the non-attachment itself without grasping it. Step back from the non-attachment itself, child. The state of mind doesn't grasp itself, no grasping for the non-grasping itself. Unwinding, discarding itself. Discard even the discarding itself. Remind oneself to purify, don't be dull. If not diligently reminding to purify samsara from each sentence, remind oneself, child. Otherwise, you always give significance and meanings to even the walking, just like animals. Stillness within stillness is not okay. It doesn't work. Indifference within the indifference either. It's still a realm of existence. Discard even the discarding itself, child. Open up widely, simultaneously, continuously, with everything. If stepping back, then step back from the non-attachment itself without grasping the non-attachment itself. Step back from the stepping back itself. There is no need to rush. We are not doing competition here. Don't give significance and meanings within walking. Open up widely. Simultaneously, step back from non-attachments from itself. Simultaneously with widening out. Let's purify without limits. Brighten out without grasping it. The emptiness doesn't grasp itself. Let's purify without limits. Open up widely, simultaneously, all at once with everything, so that it's not a waste of time. Step back from the non-attachment itself, without grasping itself. Brighten out without grasping it. The emptiness doesn't grasp itself. No grasping for the non-grasping itself thoroughly. Let's purify all angles. Purify the purification itself. Let go of the letting go itself. Because the let go is also sankhara, is the fabrication of the mind. So let go of the letting go itself. Disengage from disengaging itself, discard the discarding itself. In this way, it will be without flaw. Whatever that is quarrels and conflicts, in a way with nonsense, not beneficial, creating suffering in all lands altogether. May everything be forgiven. Ahosi, Ahosi, Ahosi. In all misleading, child. That's okay now. Let's pour the water. Do water blessing now. Let go of the letting go itself. Discard the discarding itself. The emptiness doesn't grasp itself. The brightening doesn't grasp itself. Let's be thorough so that it will be without flaw. Keep on opening widely. Significantly, it's all about opening. For samsara, you need to open for it. That which is boundless, which is immeasurable, so let's not be limited to certain extent, to just internal or external. Let's not be limited. The boundlessness will purify without traces, which is called purification of the emptiness. So remind oneself to purify through the emptiness. In this way, there will be no limits naturally. Let's not be fixed within knowing, seeing, and looking, within mindfulness, concentration, contemplation, even insight. That is karma. Karma overlaying Dhamma. That is because of grasping. That's why it becomes karma. The non-attachment doesn't grasp itself. Let's be thorough about it. Step back, disengage from disengaging itself when there's a lot of aiming, gazing, obligation and projection of the mind, a lot of desire there. So just step back, disengage from disengaging itself, brightening out without grasping itself, no grasping even for the non-grasping itself. In this way, there will be a purification without traces. Let's not be anything left as opinions and meanings. Any sentence is titi, is opinion, but it has to purify itself, then it will not become samsara at all. Any terminologies are titi, but let them purify themselves. This is titi that purifies itself, then it will not become samsara. If titi doesn't purify itself, any sentence doesn't purify itself, without discarding itself, it will turn into samsara within itself. Even discarding has to discard itself, child. Even no grasping has to not grasping itself either. No grasping even for the non-grasping itself. Let's not be not grasping with titi, with opinions and meanings. No grasping even for the non-grasping itself. Let's not be obsessed with just opinions and meanings regarding not grasping. The thought of not grasping, let's purify it simultaneously. No grasping even for the non-grasping itself. Even feelings of emptiness, the thought of emptiness, opinions about emptiness. Emptiness doesn't grasp itself. Let's not be the emptiness by ways of opinions and meanings and thoughts and feelings. Let's purify all opinions regarding that. The emptiness doesn't grasp itself. In this way, there will be flawlessness. Blossoming discards itself. It's not just blossoming that blossom out of budding or maintaining the blossoming state. The blossoming discards itself. It's not just blossoming and that's it. It's not just about not grasping and that's it. Not grasping even for the non-grasping itself. In this way, it will turn into the great compassion, the boundlessness that purifies samsara. This is not just discarding. Discard the discarding itself. This is not just about not grasping even the non-grasping itself. This will be the boundlessness that purifying samsara. Remind oneself to purify continuously. Otherwise, one will just dwell within oneself in the way with dullness, indifference, and sluggishness and depression. The dwelling within oneself is the attributes of the delusive attachments is unknown. The maintaining within a state of mind is called the attempt to dwell. Therefore, child, remind oneself to remind the reminder itself. Each sentence purifying itself, it discards itself. Each sentence dissolves itself. Then it will be the brightness that purifies, both internal and external continuously. Keep opening widely as a basis. Don't aim for anything whatsoever. The blessing has to be basically opening out widely. Without opening, how can there be a blessing? Otherwise, it's just limited with just the gates of perceptions and the objects of perceptions. The blessing is the purification of the emptiness, actually. This is not about relating through the mind towards all things. Purification of the emptiness is not the mind related to all things. So just remind oneself through the essential, which has already given. No grasping even the non-grasping itself. Remind oneself more constantly to purify onwards. The emptiness doesn't grasp itself, child. The brightening doesn't grasp itself either. The brightening doesn't grasp itself. The emptiness doesn't grasp itself. Let's continue with the purification. Remind oneself, the reminder that purifies itself. Let's continue to purify. And let it be simultaneously proceeding with all things. That is, there is purification for oneself and samsara simultaneously. Simultaneously with everything. It will purify both oneself and samsara. This is both compassion and great compassion that proceed simultaneously, altogether. The compassion is the purification for oneself. The great compassion is the samsara's purification. The purification for samsara. Without reminding to continuously purifying, there will be just a blockage and dullness on and on. No grasping for the non-attachment itself. With this, there will be an exit. The blossoming discards itself. The non-attachment doesn't grasp itself, child. No grasping even for the non-grasping itself. With these, the blossoming state will discard itself. And how it's going to be, it will be purification without traces, which is called the purification of the emptiness, actually. Let's remind oneself through the purification, because it's the purification that purifies itself simultaneously as well. This is not just form up the purification without purifying itself. This is not just purifying something, it's also purify the purification itself. This is all of the conclusion. Let go is not just letting go of something, but it lets go of the letting go itself as well. No exception, whether day or night, no condition by times. Let's conclude continuously to purify onwards. Samsara is unlimited. This is not just conditioned by directions, the 4 directions, the 8 directions, or the 16 directions. Proceed simultaneously all at once. It has nothing to do with directions. The emptiness doesn't grasp itself. Let's proceed simultaneously with it. Has nothing to do with directions. No grasping for the non-grasping itself has nothing to do with directions. Let's proceed simultaneously all at once.